Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by hunky, hairy, huggable homos to discuss film news and review movies. As usual, I'm joined by Jim Pugliafico.
The three H's, yo. Hey, this is Jim. Hi. Welcome to the podcast.
And Will Lindis.
Yo, listeners, yo, viewers, what's up?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I'm in the spirit, yeah.
For those of you who are not watching the live stream or the recording of the live stream, you're totally missing out because Will is totally dressed up like Ice Cube / Channing Hill, whatever style. I realize I just blended their names, but they're the same person, right?
It's their celebrity couple name, right?
Anyway, so this week we will be reviewing the sequel to 21 Jump Street, appropriately entitled 22 Jump Street. But before we get to that, we're going to dive right into some movie news. All right, so this is our lovely part of the show where we like to share bits and bobs from the film industry that we find interesting or exciting. Will, why don't you kick us off this week? What do you got?
Yeah, so mine actually kind of crosses over into MBP TV territory, but it's something that I think has enough crossover into the Marvel Cinematic Universe that it warrants bringing up, and that's some casting announcements for the new Netflix Daredevil series, which looks like it's set for 2015. Within the last couple weeks, we've learned that Charlie Cox would be Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio would be Kingpin in that show. Recently, they announced that Rosario Dawson would be joining the cast as a kind of an unidentified female lead, someone who didn't line up with any of the major characters, might cross over with a few of the minor characters in a Daredevil story. So what's exciting about this for me is, first of all, Rosario Dawson is one of those actresses who, like, man, I can't get enough of. Whenever I see her cast in something, I know I'm probably going to go see it. She just has that type of, like, it factor for me. Seeing her attached to a Marvel Studios property is really cool. And knowing that this Netflix series is going to be one of 4 series, which is then going to run over like a 13-episode arc, each of the 4 series, coming in with a final crossover, like a movie on Netflix at the end of it. It's very ambitious territory for both Marvel and Netflix, and based on the quality of programming that Netflix has put out recently, and based on the quality of films that Marvel's put out recently, I'm very, very excited about this news. I'm very excited to know that Rosario Dawson is in very good hands. What about you guys? Are you Rosario fans?
I like Rosario, but I could kind of give a shit about the TV show, so I'm not really... I don't know.
What?
Daredevil was never really my thing. I was never a big fan of him as a hero to begin with. And no, it's not because he's blind. I don't know. I tried reading some of the comics and they didn't grab me. And then the Ben Affleck movie just left a horrible taste in my mouth. And so it's hard for me to get excited about Daredevil. I'm sorry. I do love Rosario Dawson, though. I think she's great. If this cat doesn't stay off my desk, we're going to have problems.
If only you had a Daredevil superhero to help rescue you from the villainous cat.
Yeah, about that. Anyway, not that excited, but I do like Rosario Dawson quite a bit, so I'm glad to see she's getting some work.
Yeah, I mean, I like Rosario Dawson. I'm not one to ask about, there's a whole spate of these comic shows that are either out or coming out, right? There's Arrow is out. You got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Isn't Flash coming out also?
Sure is
soon.
Yep.
And now they're talking about a Daredevil show. So which conglomerate does Daredevil belong to? Like, is he?
So Daredevil is part of Marvel, specifically Marvel Studios. So he falls into the same like the Avengers world.
Okay.
And actually, this is one of 4 series that Netflix is doing side by side. All of the Marvel Studios. There's going to be a Daredevil show, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones, I believe, is the 4th one. And then they're going to cross over into like a group movie at the end of it, like also through Netflix. For me, what's cool about it is Daredevil is one of those characters who I've also not been as much into in the comics. There's been some amazing stuff, like a couple writers have done some really great things, but a lot of times he just kind of sits there being on the kind of on the C team, one of those guys who doesn't get a lot of stage time, doesn't get a lot of attention or focus. But this is a great way for us to have a character like this. He's a very street-level hero. So instead of having him built up into this movie where they inevitably make him fight like aliens and robots and all sorts of shit like that, like you can have an arc where he's fighting different street-level thugs and stuff. To put it another way, Arrow is one of those characters DC-wise who I've always thought, like, man, I kind of like this character, but I want to see more out of him. I want to see more from him. And, of course, the CW show, Arrow, has, just blown me out of the water. It has done a lot of new, original things for that character. And I'm hoping that this is going to be kind of the same thing.
We shall see. We shall see. All right, Jim, what do you got this week?
Let's see. I got some news about Star Wars. This is something that is probably... I mean, I'm not one to really follow the new Star Wars series news. It seems like every day there's something, a casting announcement or this or that. But this one seemed big enough to really make waves, and maybe you could say it was big news. Is that Rian Johnson has been named by Lucasfilm and Disney to write and direct Star Wars, the next Star Wars movie after J.J. Abrams. So it's Episode 8, I guess, and so he's going to write and direct that. In addition, he's also been named to do some of the writing on Episode 9 after Episode 8. So he's in for the long haul. And this is kind of big news because those of you unfamiliar with the name of Rian Johnson, he did a movie a while ago called Brick, which I really liked. That was kind of his, coming onto the scene in a big way. Got a lot of attention. Recently, his most recent big movie, I guess, would be Looper, which we saw and we reviewed on the show, on one of the early shows here. He also directed some amazing episodes of Breaking Bad. One of my favorites was called Ozymandias, and he directed that episode as well. So, I mean, based on this output, the guy's got a lot of, he's got the chops to direct and to write. We know Star Wars Episode 7 is coming out at the end of next year, I think, at least as of right now. J.J. Abrams is the director of that. They've also named, the studios have also named Godzilla director Gareth Edwards to do a Star Wars spin-off movie for 2016, and also recently named Chronicle director Josh Trank for yet even another spin-off film. So there's going to be the main series of movies, Star Wars movies, the episodes, and then spin-off movies from that, which is something that we really haven't seen big screen treatments of the spin-offs yet. So that's going to be exciting. So I guess, there's a couple of things to take from this. J.J. Abrams obviously won't be sticking around, at least as director, for all of the episodes, as some people may have assumed, and you can make of that what you will, whether you're a huge J.J. Abrams fan and really like the idea of him doing all the movies or not. But more exciting for me is they're starting to bring in some, let's see, I don't know how to put this, like lesser known but far from inexperienced talent, like some fresh ideas into the franchise, which, gets me more excited for the Star Wars movies. It's not going to be, bringing in always the biggest name, J.J. Abrams or, Christopher Nolan or, James Cameron or whatever. And I'm glad they're not going that direction. So what do you guys think about that news? Do you feel that's a good path they're on, or are you disappointed maybe that J.J. won't be directing all the way through?
I like J.J. Abrams, but I really don't give a shit about Star Wars, so meh.
Oh, wow.
Wait.
Brad
Oh,
doesn't
wait.
give a shit about anything tonight, apparently.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Of course I care about Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I was just mirroring my reaction to Daredevil. I don't know. I don't think that J.J. Abrams needs to be attached to all of the movies. I think he's great to kind of kick things off. I'm excited to see a different vision come in. I think we've seen when you have 3 Star Wars movies all directed by the same dude, there's a lot of potential for shittiness if that one dude doesn't do well. So I'm kind of excited to see multiple people sort of helming things. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, I think the right move here was getting J.J. Abrams in for the first one, because this is a guy who, not only is he a name for whatever that's worth, but he's a very he's very good at like conceptualization. He's one of the guys that when you're looking at not necessarily reinventing your world, but basically getting it back off the ground again, he's a great one to kind of build it up from the floor up. He's a great person to get the ball rolling. But then you can hand off the baton to other directors, people who have some clout, have some experience, know what they're doing, but are a little bit maybe less tried, a little bit, maybe, Rian Johnson's not, untested. He's had several successful films, but he certainly doesn't have quite the resume that some other directors have, and that's great. That puts him in a position where hopefully he'll come into this very ambitious, like not feeling like he has to play it safe, but that he wants to, take some risks, still within the conceptualization that JJ kicks off, but take some risks and move the franchise in some interesting directions. So that's where this franchise is really going to shine. When you get these new blood directors or these different people who have the potential to kind of take what JJ started, move it off into some interesting territory, that's where we're going to shine. I'm happy with this news.
Yep.
Indeed.
Sounds like we're all on the same boat there, kind of excited about how the franchise is going to go once JJ kicks it off. I think there's maybe more news to come. I'm sure there's going to be more news to come between now and the end of next year. We've got a whole year and a half to wait if they stay on schedule, and that's, I think, a big if at this point, because of other things going on, and who knows what's going to crop up between now and then. But I'm starting to get excited. I'm really dreading, though, how far ahead we're going to have to stand in line to watch this movie.
Well, at least do it in costume, right?
Yeah. It's going to be crazy.
Indeed. Well, it's funny you talk about your potential delays. Jim, I knew exactly where you were going with this. Jim lovingly found a news bit for me today because I had the most horrible day at work ever today. It was horrible. And so I was running behind, and Jim's like, I love you, sweetheart. Here's a cool news bit. Harrison Ford apparently broke his left leg while filming the new Star Wars movie and is projected to be out of filming for about 8 weeks. Apparently this happened last week. I hadn't even heard about it. And it started out as a rumor that he had broken his ankle. But no, he broke the whole frickin' leg. And it's got me wondering what in the hell they had him doing that broke his leg. I don't know.
The rumor was something about... It happened on set, by the way. It didn't didn't happen like during lunch or walk to his trailer or at night home, changing a light bulb in his house or whatever. He did it on set. Supposedly, the rumor that I heard was that it was a prop door of the Millennium Falcon that fell off on his leg. And
just a couple episodes ago, we were talking about how excited we were that they were using live sets and actual actually being there filming as opposed to a bunch of CGI. And I'm sure Harrison Ford's like, yeah, fuck you guys. I wish we were doing it green screen.
I don't know. He seems like one of the guys that would kind of probably push for more practical effects than CGI, but maybe not. Maybe not. And who knows? I mean, that may all be like folklore building. I don't know.
I don't know.
May have just fallen down the stairs. I mean, the dude is, that's the other thing. The dude is, he's quite old. I don't know how old. Is he 60?
Oh, I think he's older than that.
He's older than that, yeah.
I mean, you break a bone after 60, and it takes a while to heal. I mean, it's not like he's 20 and he's going to be back on his feet in 6 weeks.
71.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
thing might
wonder.
not heal ever.
I wonder if Carrie Fisher hit him.
I don't know. Does she have a reason to?
I don't know.
Who knows what goes on behind the scenes?
You never know. You never know. Anyway, did find that interesting. Han Solo out of commission for at least 8 weeks, but could be longer than that. I don't know. I guess we'll
They
see.
could just film him from the waist up. He doesn't have to do anything.
That's true. That's true. Hey, so live stream comment from longtime listener and fan of the show, Dennis V from here in Tucson. He says, "Hey guys, love listening to you all. Love the podcast." Dennis, we love you too.
Dennis.
Thank
Love
you
you
for
too.
listening. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Much love, Dennis.
For sure, for sure. All right, guys. Well, I think that about does it for movie news. How do you guys feel about moving on to a movie review?
Well, we got to review a movie
Good.
today.
I know, we
go
got to
for it.
review a movie. I know. I wish it was a better movie to review. I mean, here we go. Our review / discussion / what have you of 22 Jump Street. All right, so as usual, we'll kick things off spoiler-free and give our recommendations on seeing this film before we take a helicopter to Spoiler Town. Let's see, who are we going to start with this week? Jim, how about you? Is this movie worth seeing in theaters? Should we rent it? Should we skip it? Well, how do you feel?
Well, let's see. 22 Jump Street, right, is as many people know, is the sequel to the successful reboot of the 21 Jump Street TV series from, I think it was the 70s, I'm pretty sure. And just like the first movie, in a lot of ways, this one centers around the two bumbling, misfit, fuck-up, undercover cops. It's Jenko, I think, played by Channing Tatum, and Schmidt, played by Jonah Hill. I have those right? Not reversed, I think. Anyway.
That's right.
Anyway, they're back after about 4 or 5 years after the first mission that we saw in 21 Jump Street to, guess what? Do the same thing of infiltrating a school to identify and flush out the dealer of some dangerous drugs. And along the way, danger and hilarity ensues, for some at least, the hilarity part. I like the first 21 Jump Street movie because it was a fresh take and a completely new spin and tone on the old TV show that I grew up watching. Actually, I think that show preceded Miami Vice. I mean, that's how old that 21 Jump Street show is.
It aired from 1987 to 1991, believe it or not.
87 and 91. So that was after Miami Vice, though.
It was after Miami Vice, yeah.
Wow. See, my memory is not what it used to be. But anyway, I didn't really like this movie very much at all, and there's several reasons for that. And it's mostly a comedy. It's got elements of drama in it, but it is primarily a comedy. And a few gags did work on me for a chuckle here and there, but overall, I found this movie to be lacking. It wasn't worse than like A Million Ways to Die in the West bad, but it just didn't live up to my expectations and set by the first movie. And another movie that came to mind when I was watching this is a movie called last year called This Is the End, which I really appreciated. It had the same kind of humor. For some reason, that humor landed with me, and a lot of this humor did not. And comedy's a weird thing, as we talked about on the show. Different people have different types of comedy that they respond to. And not only that, but even if it's a movie that has a type of comedy that you typically respond to and like, depending on the mood you're in, it can hit you really strange and just never get you going. And maybe that's what happened with me. I'm just I didn't really care a lot for this movie. The main issue, though, for me was not that they basically copied almost the exact same plot, beat for beat, from the first movie, because even this they made into several jokes. It was very self-aware of the fact that it was a prequel and they were doing the exact same thing. and that made for some of the actually more funny parts of the movie. I just felt that comedy-wise, other than the self-aware stuff, which I thought landed pretty well, I thought it was pretty well done. The rest of it seemed kind of lazy and forced. Just the writing being lazy, like repeating a few lines. A few of the same lame gags not from movie to movie, like the same joke that they played in 21 Jump Street to 22 Jump Street, but within the same movie we had the same gag a few times. And what's not really landing the first time is not going to do it the second time, obviously. And we can get into some of the specifics and spoilers. So, I don't know. For me, unless you're lucky enough to see this movie in a packed theater, like on a Saturday night, because for some reason, comedies are better when you have a lot of people in the audience laughing along, and the energy is higher. I just can't recommend running out to see this one in theaters, possibly a VOD rental. I'm sure it'll be out, sometime before the holidays on some of those outlets. But yeah, just didn't float my boat when I walked out of this movie. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think, Will?
So this is going to be a difficult show for me. I think I'm going to be in a 1 versus 2 scenario. For me, 22 Jump Street. Well, probably based on his intro. 22 Jump Street is the funniest movie I've seen this year. Hands down the comedy of the year for me. And I know that comedy is subjective, and that's one of the things that we'll get into a little bit. What jokes work for one person may not work for the other. But I found that there was not a stretch of this film where I wasn't gut-busting laughing. I walked out of the film literally hoarse from laughing. To me, when I say, what's my litmus test for do I enjoy a comedy, does it work for me, it's like, how much do I laugh? This one gave it back to me in spades. This film was very smart for me. We ended up with, and so was the first film, 21 Jump Street. We have this film that was, Brad's making googly eyes at me. 21 Jump Street was a very clever film because it took this premise of we're making a show out of an old nostalgic. We're making a movie out of an old nostalgic TV show, which has been done billions of times, usually pretty poorly. And it took the formula and it adjusted it. It made a lot of self-referential jokes while advancing the storyline with new characters, new Jump Street guys. 22 Jump Street takes
new building.
Well, yeah, new building. Now they're across the street, and they're no longer at 21 Jump Street. They're at 22 Jump Street. What I love so much about the second film is whenever you have a sequel to a comedy, there's always this outpouring from the crowd. Like, there's always this weird thing afterwards where it's like, the first one was funnier, why didn't you just do those things, or things like that. You always have people comparing the films. So this film took a lot of the same jokes from the first film, a lot of the same plot lines, repeated them, and made that the joke. Like, it's even a scene very early on. Nick Offerman, the police detective, is saying, we're going to have you guys going out there and doing the exact same thing you did last time since it worked so well. It's a reference to the film, which was wildly popular. For me, this is the directors here were the same guys that did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, of course the other 21 Jump Street, and the Lego Movie, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who are on a hot streak. These are two guys who I would trust implicitly to take any unfilmable script. Like, seriously, look at what they've done. Like, a film about raining meatballs, a film about Legos come to life, and 2 movies rebooting the 21 Jump Street series, and they've made, to me at least, hit after hit after hit. We'll talk about some of the things that I specifically liked when we get into spoilers, some of the jokes that jumped out for me the most. I certainly don't want to spoil those. The other thing that was interesting in this one was it expanded the Jenko-Schmidt relationship. The first film was all about... even past that. Like, the first film took these 2 guys, dropped them back into high school, and you got to see how much they had changed since high school. Old schlubby Schmidt, now he's the top dog, whereas the meathead Jenko, that's Channing Tatum's character, he was relegated to the nerds, and both had to deal with the fact that their roles were so dramatically different than what they remembered being like in high school. So the first film was kind of like an Odd Couple type film. This one, you get this film about these 2 characters who are now this inseparable duo. Like, where one goes, the other has to be there. And throughout the course of the film, they have to struggle with a lot of like the insecurities that they bring to that relationship. Like Jenko's doubting the bond because they're very, very different people, while Schmidt's very fearful that Jenko, the meathead, the popular dude from high school, all of that he might move on to a more compatible partner. And of course, there's like a lot of gay references that come along with that, and that's intentional. That's part of the joke as well. Also, not done in a mean-spirited way. We'll talk about some of the specifics and spoilers. But yeah, save for there's an appearance by Rob Riggle and Dave Franco who come back from the first film. And while that scene was all right for me, it was not the funniest. It wasn't the best. It was kind of like the one dip in the film for me. The rest was top notch, A+. I would say if you're the type of person that enjoys seeing comedies in theaters, this is one you definitely have to watch. It's already at the top of my comedy list, ranking very highly for me in terms of my overall film list for the year. So I would say don't miss it.
Man, I'm so pumped to go see that movie you saw, Will. What was it called? Because it's not the one I saw.
22 Jump Street. You must have seen Million Ways to Die a second time.
I must have, because this movie was fucking awful.
We saw 22 Junk Street.
I guess so. I totally. My turn to talk. I totally respect your opinion, Will, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. But I don't know. I loved 21 Jump Street. I thought it was an awesome remake. And I loved watching the TV series. So for me, it was kind of a thrill to see, this reboot. It was done very well. Jonah Hill is not my favorite person in the world, but I really liked him in that role in the first movie. I thought the comedy worked very well. I don't know what's different about this film, I guess, but it just did not hit me like the first one did. Maybe because it's that overwhelming sameness. Like, ha 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 ha, I get it. We're making a riff on doing the same thing over and over again. But at some point, you can have the funny haha, but like let's watch something different, or I'm watching the first movie all over again. And I guess I just feel like it didn't bring anything new for me. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like one single thing in this movie that really stood out for me as like something that I could be like, wow, that was so good. And there's really not a lot for me to say. Jim, you pretty much encapsulated my thoughts for the most part. I don't see a lot of reason to sort of rehash them. There were a couple chuckles, a couple of laughs, but overall, I actually think I might have liked A Million Ways to Die in the West a little better than this movie in some ways. And I'm not saying a lot. So roll your eyes, groan at me. That's fine. But I think I'm hard pressed to decide which one I really did not like more. At least A Million Ways to Die in the West had Charlize Theron in it, which I really, really liked. I liked a lot of her stuff, and some Neil Patrick Harris. But this film, I don't know. I got really, really, really tired of the Channing Tatum Jonah Hill shtick in a hurry. Loved it in the first film. This one, it felt really forced. It just felt, I don't know, man. Just didn't trip my trigger. Whatevs. But, yeah.
You done?
I'm done.
Well, here's the thing. So I didn't, at the end of actually, parts of this movie kind of made me a little bit angry toward the end, and we'll get into that in spoilers, like which parts, because I think they do spoil. Well, yeah, I'll wait till spoilers. But I did write down several things that I did like about the movie, actually, and there were quite a few. I was actually surprised how many I liked about the movie, but overall, it just didn't hang together for me. I don't know, that I just wish the comedy were sharper and smarter. I guess I don't know. There was some comedy in here that I liked, but I don't think they pushed it far enough for me. I think a lot of the stuff they pushed was more of the stuff that I thought was a little bit lazy. I don't know. I mean, Will, did you get to see it like on opening night?
I saw it not on opening. I think I actually saw it before opening night. I did have a pretty full audience, and that does always help for comedies.
Yeah, as you remember when we saw like Neighbors, right? We had in a full audience. It was a little bit I felt a little bit more, like laughing in that movie when we saw it in a full packed house of like 1,200 people than when I saw it here locally, and I think that's just due to the energy that a Full House brings. And with this movie, I don't know. Our theater was like half full, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. Not even, right?
No, not even. No.
Not even. That's typical for where we go. But yeah. I don't know what else. I mean, do we want to just get into spoilers, or is there anything else we want to say on spoilers?
I would just get into spoilers. I don't really see a need to.
Okay.
Yeah,
to
I can't think of
belabor
anything else that's kind of in the non-spoiler territory.
Right.
So yeah, for anyone that might be tuning out now, we're very split. One says absolutely go see it. One says absolutely not. One says wait for VOD. It sounds
One
like.
says probably not. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Spoilers for 22 Jump Street are incoming. If you don't want to be spoiled, now is your chance to step away for a little while, come back in 30-35 minutes, and catch up with our plugs. Otherwise, if you continue listening, we are rolling full steam ahead into Spoiler Town. Spoilers aren't officially fair game. This is your last warning. Turn back now. If you're still here, here we go. Go.
So, I mean, I'm looking at the rather than I'm not going to sit here and like pick the movie to death. I mean, there were some things I really liked about it. The first thing that I really liked about this movie from the beginning of the movie were the cars. Like that Camaro Z28 at the beginning that they had at the beginning of the movie. I think before it blew up. I think it blew up at the end. I'm not sure. No, it blew up at the beginning.
It blew up at the beginning, yeah.
I love that car, man. And then they went into Lamborghinis at the end, and that was kind of cool. But not as cool as a Z28. Huh?
Got to get in the Lambo.
Yeah. So there's an example, that opening scene. They're at some kind of freight docks or warehouse, and they're trying to find illegal drugs or something like that, and they're setting up a sting operation. And you see this in the trailers. This is the one where Jonah Hill puts on the Latino accent and tries to act like a cholo to get information, and the squid jumps on his face, and then later on, just after that, a chase breaks out. A chase scene where they're hanging on a truck, and it's very cliched, tropey like chase scene. There's really nothing in there, and then the one thing, at one point, and this was before the car blew up, Jonah Hill's, I think it was Jonah Hill, is on top of a speeding tractor trailer truck, and they're playing it for gags. And of course, here comes the low bridge thing, right? You see that coming a mile away, and I don't know. It's just, that just isn't funny. Just seeing Jonah Hill get hit with the low, I-beam or whatever the hell it was. I mean, you could see it coming from a mile away, and it just didn't work on me. And I'm like, oh my God, is this the comedy that we're going to be in for? It was kind of slapsticky in a way.
Well, and not only that, but they also give it away in the trailer that it's coming. So not only is it telegraphed by the scene, too, but you know it's coming.
Yeah.
The trailers, I had some problem. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to another topic. If there's only one thing I didn't like about this movie, and it was the trailer, because the trailer gives away a couple of the slapstick moments and one of the major plot twists. Which I don't hold against the film itself, just like we didn't hold it against How to Train Your Dragon when the spoilers ruined one of the major elements of it. I don't hold the trailer spoiling one of the elements of this against the film. That's the marketing department. That's someone else. So I'll have something to say about that here in just a moment. But yeah, I mean, the comedy starts off with a little bit of action slapstick. Part of that is based around reestablishing our characters. At the end of the first film, we've got these characters who have come together as partners, and one of which has proven to be kind of like a thinking man's detective. Like, I'm the guy that can kind of figure things out and know we should try this, we should try that. And the other one's like, I'm the jock. I'm the guy that's going to chase down the bad guys. I'm the guy that's going to be athletic. And right here at the beginning, we have Schmidt, which is Jonah Hill's character, more accurately playing the cholo, kind of figuring out that sequence a little bit better, but completely whiffing when it comes to the physicality stuff. And Channing Tatum, not being that great at the undercover work, not being great as an actor, in the role, not as Channing Tatum as an actor. But then when it comes time to pick it into high gear, he goes. And so it does a really good job of establishing their strengths and their weaknesses, which become an important part of the dynamic that develops through the rest of the film. So not only is this sequence here to show that when they do something different than what they do the first time, it doesn't work, and so they should stick with what works, the meta joke of the film. It also shows that their big differences are still there, and we should pay attention to those as that rift continues to grow and continues to grow. So there was a lot of very intentional things that happened in that sequence.
Yeah, I mean, there were two. I didn't have a problem, actually. I don't have a problem with either Channing Tatum or Jonah Hill. I know that Jonah Hill can... Some people like him, some people don't. Channing Tatum seems to be pretty well universally liked. And in this movie, I thought they did a decent job. As a matter of fact, I thought most of the actors did a pretty good job. I do like Ice Cube as Captain Dixon. I thought he's some of the funniest stuff in it. Just when he opens his mouth and starts berating them and, you know, using four-letter words, I think that stuff is kind of funny. Some people really don't, but I thought that was some of the funniest stuff. However, I will say the one gag they did around him with the daughter, I did not like. It's like there was this big long sequence where, I mean, and this is a big surprise, right? One of the coworkers fucks the captain's or the boss's daughter, right? Or not accidentally, but he unwittingly, you know, fucks the daughter, and you know, and somehow that's made into a. I mean, we get the joke, but then they like just keep. I don't know. It's weird. It's they.
You mean like when Channing Tatum is like dancing around the.
You fuck the captain's daughter, or
right,
whatever. Like 6 times. I'm like, we get the joke. Why is this funnier if you say it more times? I don't know, but I don't know. That part didn't really land with me, and people were in our audience were like cracking up like crazy, and I'm like, I'm missing a joke here or something. I missed something. But yeah, I did like Ice Cube a lot. I liked him in both movies. I actually liked Jillian Bell is her name. She played Mercedes, the crazy roommate who ends up being associated with the villain at the end. And that is a spoiler.
Well, wait a second. You said the other day you thought she was terrible and her acting
I thought she was
awful.
Wait, you didn't let me finish.
Oh, okay.
So, I liked her until the end when she was gun-toting roommate. I thought her acting in some of those action scenes at the end, the confrontation at the end at the beach, and when she had to actually do some physical acting, I thought was pretty bad. But I thought her character as the crazy roommate was really good. But when she turned into villain, I just wasn't buying it. Maybe it's because of the left turn they took with that character. I don't know, but I thought she did an okay job up to that point. Did you? I mean, Brad, did you have? I mean, would you?
I really don't have a lot to say, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of quiet tonight because my mom taught me if I don't have nice things to say, I shouldn't say much. But
feel free. I'll counterbalance.
But if you asked,
Will, what did you think of her?
I was actually
going to say. Go, Brad.
Never mind.
No, I want to hear Brad. I want to hear what Brad has to say about Miss Jillian.
I liked her initially a little bit as the creepy roommate thing initially, but you could totally tell that something was going to come from that. And I think for me, I don't know, it just question mark in the back of my mind, like, why is she important? Why does she keep showing up? This is more than just, you know, oh, here's her roommate. And so it just seemed a little obvious to me, I guess, that she was going to be involved in sort of the climax crescendo of the film or whatever. And so I don't know, maybe for me I was just paying too much attention to her because it seemed telegraphed. Maybe I'm being too critical. I didn't think she was that great, honestly. You know, especially in that action sequence. I love how you have these knockdown, drag-out battles where nobody gets hurt. Like, people are getting hit in the face. They're getting hit with, like, glass jars or whatever the fuck. Like, nobody's bleeding. There are no bruises. Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's a comedy, you know, and it's a comedy that's really based off of the joke of the 21 Jump Street series. So I didn't have a problem with that. I actually like Jillian Bell quite a bit. She's quite good in, you know, she's from Workaholics. If you watch that show, she is quite entertaining there. So yeah, the only problem I had, like I said, that there was one big problem I had with this movie, and it was based on the trailer. And there's a scene in the trailer where Jonah Hill and and Jillian Bell are in a fist fight, and they're doing this thing where they're kind of like leaning in, like she's like leaning in to kiss him. He's like, well, what the fuck? This is the weirdest fight ever. Which played very well on the screen, but the problem I had with it was all this time we're dealing with this plotline of like who's going to be the mystery supplier, who's the mystery supplier, and from watching the trailer, I know that Jonah Hill at some sort of spring break setup gets into a fist fight with this like snarky roommate. So it's like as soon as you see her on screen, it's like, oh, there's the dude, there's the girl that he fist fight. Probably her as the supplier. So that was a thing where I thought the trailer, like, the film of course telegraphs, but that's okay. But I think the trailer really telegraphed it. It's like it left out any room for mystery.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I saw that in the trailer, but I didn't. It didn't lead me to believe that she was going to. I mean, to be the villain, and I thought that was way too obvious. I thought they would take a turn and make her like actually provide information maybe that helps solve the case or something like that. But and the slap fight that you do see in the trailer, I thought maybe that was just in there for comedy, because there were a couple of scenes that were in the trailers that never made it into the movie. There was a football scene where Jonah Hill gets knocked on his ass that wasn't actually in the movie, but it was in the trailer. And speaking of the football scenes, there were two bromances in this movie. One, of course, is between the main characters Schmidt and Jenko, which I think, again, I have no problem with the buddy relationship in this movie. I thought it was fairly well done. I don't think it was bad. But I actually kind of liked the kind of the bromance that formed between Schmidt and Zook, who was the varsity football quarterback in this movie. I liked that because it kind of drove a wedge and created some character and relationship friction between Schmidt and Jenko themselves. I thought that was pretty cool. There was some cool. There's homoeroticism in both bromances, which I thought was pretty well handled. I heard somebody call it a social sexual relationship.
I have not heard that, but I love that phrase.
Social sexual. And yeah, the guy who plays the quarterback is Wyatt Russell, who I hadn't really noticed before, but I was looking him up, and he was in The Walking Dead as a character named Paul. I don't know who that is. In The Walking Dead, maybe you guys know who Paul is. I don't know from 2013. He was also in the movie we saw, Brad, recently called Cold in July. I don't know if you remember him.
I do remember him. Freddy. Yeah, I do remember him from Cold in July. Yeah.
He's also the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Oh, wow. That awesome. I didn't know.
And if you look at him, you can say, oh, yeah, he definitely looks like, what's her name's, Kate Hudson's brother. But yeah.
I'm gonna start calling him Baby Overboard.
Baby Overboard, I like it. I thought he did a good job, and I hope to see him, in more movies. And it's funny, like, as much as the overall feeling I got from this movie was kind of negative, there are some things I did like about the movie.
Yeah, I actually liked him too. I actually thought some of the comedy between them was way smarter than the stuff between Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum. In particular, I liked the bit where they're like working out in the room for like the 12th time, and Channing Tatum was like, "Do you want to do something else besides working out?" That really tickled my funny bone. Again, that was kind of a self.
Like, you want to take a shower with me?
Right.
Opposites. Yeah, go for it, Brad.
I did really like that relationship, and I was glad that it turned out that he wasn't the villain, because like Channing Tatum, like I really wanted to like him too. I liked that character. He seemed like a good-hearted guy, you know what I mean? And as a college football fan, I got to tell you, those scenes were fucking making me Jones for Arizona football.
Yes. I thought the football scenes were very well done. If this was a movie centered around the football, I think it would have been better.
Would have been in heaven. I loved the football scenes, and I actually really liked the chase on the football mascot, the football, the football golf cart, and that surprised me because I know it didn't play well for you, Jim, but I don't know. I liked the idea of them on this golf cart. You know, Jonah Hill removes the governor, it shoots forward. You know,
Is that the first or second false ending of the movie?
That's the second false ending, I think. But I don't know. I like the football element to it. I like the Zook character a lot. So there, I said something positive.
The Zuck character was quite nice, and I liked Wyatt Russell. He was also in another movie that came out last year called We Are What We Are, which is a kind of a brutal horror movie, a remake of I want to say like a 2010 film or something like that. It was weird. They like remade it 3 years later. But anyways, check it out. We Are What We Are. It's one worth checking out with the same guy.
He reminds me of another actor. Kind of a young is it Owen Wilson?
I can see some Owen Wilson there.
I see some Owen Wilson in the way he acts and looks. But yeah, so we talked about the ending of the movie a little bit. I think one of the things that kind of ticked me off at the end was the false endings, and they just kind of kept going, you know, because they needed a helicopter scene or whatever the hell. I mean, that last bit of stuff at Spring Break. Even though I got a cool Spring Breakers vibe there, and I was kind of digging it for a couple of seconds when they were playing the dubstep music and everyone's dancing up and down. Obviously, I think a nod to Spring Breakers. Other than that, at that point the movie had maybe worn me down a little bit, and I was just kind of looking for it to end. Although I knew it had to end in the helicopter because I think we saw that in the trailers. I think we saw the helicopter in the trailer.
The helicopters in the trailers. Dude, you touched my dick in the Red Band trailer. Yeah. So yeah, ending worked for me because it pulled all the story elements together in a way that at least worked for me. I want to jump back to Wyatt Russell real quick though, because one of the things that I enjoyed so much about that character was there was probably the funniest scene in this entire movie. Was they played off of the idea of the meet cute between Zook and Channing's character Jenko. For anyone that doesn't know, a meet cute is that scene in a romantic comedy where like the guy and the girl are walking different directions, they bump into each other, he accidentally knocks over her papers, they like bump heads a couple of times when picking them up, and then it's like they have that like moment where they look at each other and they kind of think there's some sort of attraction. Let's go get coffee later. That's the meet cute, the scene in the romantic comedy where your two romantic leads meet each other. So we have the sequence where they're both Jenko and Zook are standing at the edge of this football field, and Jenko's cleaning out his ears with this Q-tip, and Zook's eating this like meatball sandwich or this meat sandwich, and they get knocked into, and like all their stuff goes falling together, and he drops the Q-tip in the sandwich, and they keep like leaning down and they keep bumping each heads, and they're like, oh, it's so funny, it's like a Q-tip sandwich, a Q-tip meat sandwich, it's like a meat cute sandwich. It was just a really fun little reference. I'm sure not everyone would have necessarily gotten that, but I thought that was really clever that they telegraphed their meet cute so much. Like they put a big neon sign over those characters and said, hey, these two characters are about to have a bromance, and it's probably going to interfere with what's going on with Jenko and Schmidt. And they played that meet cute for a lot of laughs. I enjoyed that so freaking much.
You know what I kind of enjoyed that scene too because it was during the football part, which I really liked, and it kind of reminded me of the old "You got your chocolate and my peanut butter" commercials. Do you guys remember those? That's what I was thinking of. Like, you got your Q-tip on my sandwich, right? You know, I'm like, oh, that I don't know if they were thinking of that, but that's what it reminded me of anyway. The jokes I mentioned earlier that they had repeated some jokes that kind of not rubbed me the wrong way because I thought they were kind of lame and really didn't work. There was a couple of times they brought out the fisting joke, this thing. Yeah. They brought it out at least twice, and I guess that's supposed to be really funny. I don't know, maybe once I could see it getting a chuckle. And then the double-ended dildo. There was at least 2 double-ended dildos in the movie, right? Did I see one? Did I see that right?
I think it was just one, because I think the other one you're thinking of was from the trailer for I don't know, some other stupid movie.
Really? Or maybe it was just from a porn that I saw.
We've seen a lot of dildos this year. There was a bunch of dildos in Neighbors too.
Yeah.
That's true. There was a lot. Yeah, Neighbors had definitely a higher dildo factor, but yeah, that was when I saw the dildo in the drawer, I could swear we had seen another one earlier, but maybe it could have been a different trailer or a different movie. Apologies if that was the case. I did enjoy the end. Oh, so we talked about the football thing, and at one point, Jenko and Zook are looking at a video that they're making, kind of like a promotional video of I think it's called a promotional video, or kind of like to show off their football talents on the field. This duo of the quarterback and the receiver are awesome, and they showed a little clip of the video, and it's really, really corny and really flashy and stupid, and that kind of got a chuckle out of me. Here they are, the two of them working on this crazy video, and I turned to Brad during the movie and I says, if they don't show that video during the end credits, it'll be a mistake, because I think that's going to be funny.
Yeah.
So in the end credits, they didn't show it. I was disappointed. However, the end credit scenes I thought were pretty funny.
Oh my God! Best part of the whole movie. That shit
not
was
because
funny.
It was the end, but because it was actually pretty funny. They had these kind of I don't know what you call them, but
like
little
movie posters
vignettes,
showing
I
like
guess.
the next sets of films, right?
All right.
Like it takes the meta joke and takes it to the next level. Like, we're just going to make them do the same thing over and over again. So you see this like, next time you're going to be going to medical school, and then you get this poster for 23 Jumpstreet Medical School, and they're like standing there, and you see like a little shot of them like shooting someone up in a hospital. It's like 24 Jumpstreet Veterinary School, like, and they got up to like what was it, like 40, like
44 Jump Street.
Yeah. Just like 44 Jump Street, C and double or whatever it was, and they just kept coming with it. Like, there's some movies where you just gotta stick through the credits. Like, this is definitely one of them. That
Do I
sequence
dare
is great.
say that I would like to see some of those movies made? Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Some
Ninja
of them could be
Academy.
funny.
Ninja Academy. Come on, totally.
Yes. Dancing School.
That one was pretty hilarious.
The only one I don't want to see is the one where they had like Seth Rogen appearing, and he was like, and then Jonah Hill comes back for the next one. He's like, yeah, what are you talking about, contract disputes?
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
You have one with James Franco.
Yeah, you could have easily seen him. Like, I'm surprised he didn't come out with like the dreads doing his like Spring Breakers thing.
Now that would have been funny if Alien was like Spring Break.
Yes.
If he was the dude that was like, you blew up a helicopter, it's fucking awesome. Let's sing Britney Spears. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
They could have I mean, I don't know if Harmony Korine would have been down for that, the director of Spring Breakers, but I'm sure Franco would have been.
Yeah.
He was too busy filming Interior Leather Bar Part 2.
Oh, well, let me know when that comes out.
So, I mean, there you have it. I mean, like I said, I for some reason it just didn't. A lot of the comedy didn't click with me. I thought some of it was really lazy. Maybe I was just overly disappointed that they didn't push some of the comedy a little bit into smarter areas. Some of the smart comedy, Will, that you mentioned, some of the more self-aware comedy, like at the end, right? The end credits was all self-depreciating comedy. They're poking fun at themselves for making basically the same movie over and over again. And that's fine when it's funny, but when they got away from that and went into some other more lazy is a bad word, I've used it already, but just well-worn comedy stuff like Screwing the Boss's Daughter and some of that stuff, it just kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit and took me out of the movie a couple of times. I think once too many. So yeah.
Yeah. For me, again, there was just laugh after laugh after laugh. Like you mentioned, the Ice Cube and the Tatum flip out scenes. Like after the meet cute, that was probably my second favorite sequence. Just because you get a chance to see more out of Ice Cube. First one, he's just the guy that issues the directives, and this one, like, he has a role in the plot. After we find out that Schmidt just made it with Ice Cube's daughter.
Fuck his daughter.
Yeah, we have this extended sequence where Ice Cube's just like very like, and then they meet at this like meet the parents thing at school. We have this extended sequence where Ice Cube slowly flips out and then like aggressively flips out and sends angry text after angry text. All of it was just funny because it just kept coming bit after bit after bit after bit. But then what was so good was, as awkward as that sequence was for Jonah Hill's character Schmidt, and as long as that joke had stretched on, then you have, as soon as Channing Tatum's character figures out what just happened, you get this little light bulb sound. Is it like, ding, oh, I got it. He then awkwardly continues the joke, and that's the joke of that sequence. Not necessarily like, oh, he had sex with the daughter. It's, we're going to make this as uncomfortable for Schmidt as possible. Okay, it's over. Nope, we're going to make it more uncomfortable for Schmidt. So that sequence for me was just absolutely brilliant because it took it exactly as long as it needed to be, and it let Channing Tatum play a. He's not like really the straight man in these because he definitely has a lot of humor, but it was fun to see him like get like kind of the stand up and little like do really crazy like a little, I don't want to say physical comedy, but more emotive comedy. But yeah, I think the only thing that that I guess I still have left to say on it is there was one thing where we noticed that throughout the course of the film, Jenko starts to learn like he takes this like this human sexuality class, and he learns about like slurs and how you're not supposed to like call people like a faggot or anything like that because it's bad. And so he has this like kind of like, I shouldn't do that. And he like a villain tosses out a gay slur, and he stops in the middle and is like, no man, you shouldn't do that.
What did you
say?
This.
Yeah, like you shouldn't do that, because that this and that. And so I thought that was kind of neat that they took like this. A lot of comedies like this would have instead like played like the kind of the gay joke between Jenko and Schmidt, and they would have played it maliciously. And I don't think that was done here at all. I think this was done very lovingly, very cautiously, and then we have this, of course, reference. The only thing that was unfortunate about it is this film came out within a week of when Jonah Hill had the calling a paparazzi member a faggot thing, and then went on his apology tour, which, say what you will about that. I'm not going to get into kind of my thoughts on that specifically, but it was unfortunate timing for this film to have, for me, like some very, like, positive pro-gay stuff in it at the same time that one of the main characters is involved in kind of like a gay slur scandal,
Well,
yes,
to be fair,
timing sucked.
To be fair, Jonah Hill's character isn't the one who is being all like, we love gay people. You know what I mean? That was Channing Tatum. So, I don't know. It doesn't really detract for me. I mean, if his character had been the one that was like, hey, we can't call people that, then it would seem more hypocritical, I guess. But
yeah. But you're right, Will. I did like the way they put a positive spin on that typical macho bullshit, that happens when two guys are squaring off and one guy calls the other homophobic slur like you faggot or whatever. Instead of like, oh yeah, well fuck you, and they go at it. This was like Channing Tatum taking a step back, saying, "Oh, I know from my human sexuality class."
That's a different class.
my homophobia sensitivity class that hey, that's not cool, and it really hurts homosexual people when you let out those slurs like that, and you shouldn't be. I just thought that was a pretty good spin on the whole thing, and I did appreciate that the movie went there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that the movie went to Vietnamese Jesus. I like that a lot.
Yes. Praise Vietnamese Jesus.
This time we have Vietnamese Jesus.
We even got a dancing Vietnamese Jesus at one point, if you notice, during one of the montage sequences.
During the drug trip out scene, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I like to lovingly refer to him as Vietnameses.
Vietnameses? Nice.
I think that hashtag that's going to catch on.
So we talked about two comedies, one which I liked a lot less than this one, A Million Ways to Die in the West, and both of them had drug trip montages. Right. I would have to say, though, I liked the drug trip montage in A Million Ways to Die better than this one, even though I like this movie a little bit better.
That's just because this drug trip was so low budget, Jim. It didn't have the big special effects.
Well, but besides, the drug trip portion of A Million Ways to Die in the West was actually the best part of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aside from maybe the credits, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
drug trip sequence in this was pretty interesting. It was very colorful. That was one of the things I liked
Yes.
about it. Like it had a lot of
As they are.
yeah. It might be
Indeed.
familiar to some viewers.
Not me.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've exhausted the well. Yes, would you agree, or do you have more to say?
I mean, I think I hit on all the things that I kind of liked about this movie, and didn't beat up on too many of the things. Again, needed more football.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. All right. Well, then let's move on to some plugs. Will, what have you got this week?
Hey guys, want to talk about some penis?
Penis.
That's what I'm about to talk about. I'm going to talk about a bunch of penises now. Specifically, this movie that came out this year called Stranger by the Lake. Have you guys had a chance to see it?
Nope.
Heard of it, didn't see it. Is it French?
Yes. And it is. It's by Elaine Girardi. I'm butchering the name. So this film it's one of the better movies I've seen this year. Definitely one that I would recommend to almost any audience, gay or straight, although I think listeners of our show will probably appreciate it a lot more. The idea behind it is it's summertime, and it's this lake that is notoriously known as this like a clothing optional lake where this one side of it is used for the gay guys to go cruising. So at this lake, the whole film is shot at this lake. You never have a sequence that's not in the lake or in the woods right outside of it. This one guy comes back after having spent the summer away, and starts to lust after one guy while building a friendship with another. And of course, there's just nonstop nakedness through this. There's also a lot of like gratuitous, very gratuitous sex scenes. I'm talking like people ejaculating on screen. Like it's intense. The main actor maybe wears a stitch of clothing like 10% of the time. But what's so compelling about this is, despite its gratuitousness and despite it being centered around one location, it turns into a very, very compelling Hitchcockian thriller. So if you're the type of guy that likes kind of what Hitchcock would do with his stories, where he really played off of like the psyche, where he really played off of like it wasn't as much like a whodunit as much as like a whydunit type thing. This is definitely a film to check out. Again, one of the stronger films I've seen this year. It's both raw and gratuitous, while also like silhouetted and graceful and beautiful with the backdrop of the lake. It's tense and it's scary and it's uncomfortable just in the way that the main character goes through some of his personal growths. This film can be found on Amazon Video on Demand, like right now, so you can rent it for like $3.99 from Amazon. So it's not one you have to go check out in theaters or like go to like the indie spot like 2 towns over. You can see it right now on Amazon Instant Video, and so yeah, I strongly recommend it.
Awesome.
How dare you try to draw us into your indie bullshit with sex?
Look, if you want a nice art house film, check out Stranger by the Lake. If you want to see a lot of dicks, check out Stranger by the Lake.
Think of it as
choice is yours.
Think of it as Hitchcockian hookup by the lake.
There you go, Jim. What do you got this week?
I have just a few trailers that I hit on this week that I'll mention. Won't get into much because they're just trailers, but they looked interesting to me. One of them is called The Last of Robin Hood. It's a fictionalized story about Errol Flynn, the actor, played by Kevin Kline. It's got Susan Sarandon, Dakota Fanning in it with him. This one I watched it. It's got kind of a Mad Men feel to it. A little bit of comedy, a lot of drama, kind of like a biopic, but definitely fictionalized a little bit. It looks really interesting. The production value looks really high. Check out that trailer. A documentary that I saw, I didn't see a trailer for a documentary I saw. This one was at South by Southwest and never got a chance to see it. It's called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. For you fans of sports and of baseball, this one's a documentary about a team back in the late 70s, early 80s, owned by Bing Bing Russell, who's we seem to be on a Russell kick. He is the dad of Kurt Russell and the grandfather of Wyatt Russell.
Oh, wow.
He owned the baseball team. It was a minor league team called the Portland Mavericks. Just how they were formed, they were a very independent baseball team, a lot of cool stories. It just looks like a really, really cool documentary. It's got Kurt Russell in it because he was actually on the team playing for his dad during that time. So it looks like a good story about a bunch of eccentrics on a baseball team. And one other movie, I saw a trailer to finally, a movie called Love is Strange. You guys may have heard of it, Brad. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. This is a movie starring Alfred Molina and John Lithgow as a gay couple that's been together for 39 years. It's a slice of life story. It's about this elderly gay couple, or they're approaching retirement or just into retirement. They're struggling with society and life, and it just looks like a great story about family. It's also got Marissa Tomei in it, one of my favorite all-time actresses, and it looks like a great movie. And the reason I've been waiting for this trailer is that a guy we know, Brad from P-Town, Jim Landy, is.
We love you, Jim Landy.
He's one of the producers on this movie, and he's been. I've been following on Facebook. He's been going all around the world to festivals, showing off this movie, and the reaction sounds like it's been really cool. I can't wait to get to see it. It's called Love is Strange.
Awesome. Love us some Jim Landy. That guy rocks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For me this week, short and sweet. You all know that I love Let It Go from Frozen. I also love Pearl Jam, and the two have been wonderfully blended. Eddie Vedder recently covered the song at a recent Pearl Jam concert, and there is a video of this performance out there, so we'll put a link in show notes. But I really enjoyed it, actually. It was fun. It's interesting to see, fucking Pearl Jam singing a Let It Go Disney Princess song, but what have you. There you go. Let it go. All right. I think that about wraps us up for the week, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you hanging out with us as always. Will has got his spring break glasses back on. I'll shift focus so you can see him one last time. What? All right.
Spring break, yo.
All right. Not sure what we're doing for next week quite yet. I'm sure we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, we are very quickly approaching the 2,000 like mark on Facebook. That's a big milestone for us. Again, I know it's an arbitrary number, but I don't know. That's kind of exciting. So we're looking forward to that. And we're also going to be giving away some more Movie Bears podcast T-shirts here coming up soon. We may be bringing back our trivia quiz show. So if you're interested in testing your Movie Bear knowledge, let us know by sending us an email to moviebearspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know you're interested in participating, and we may set something up with you here in the near future. Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.